Hi everyone. I think it cut me out, but I'm back. I hope you guys join again. Okay, I'm waiting for him to join us. Let me just put the title on, pin it. Okay, it is pinned. And I'm just waiting for him. Yeah, fantastic, he's here. So I'm going to add him on. So I'm just waiting for him to join. Fantastic, he's here. Hi, good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm
Can you
fine,
hear me?
thank you. I'm great, thank you.
Good.
How's everything?
Not bad, not bad.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm not going to assume everyone here knows me. My name is Dorosinmi Etti. I'm the founder of Herconomy. Herconomy is a female-focused fintech which allows women save and earn high interest and also save as they spend on things that they need. So on this call today, I have the founder and CEO of Purple Group, Mr. Laide Agboola, and we are going to be talking about the Purple IPO. I'm hosting him, so I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about the Purple IPO. We don't have too many companies here, especially new age companies that have IPO'd recently. So we have a lot of questions, to ask him. I've got a lot of questions in my DM as well. So I'm going to be asking you and bombarding you with plenty questions. But before we even continue, please just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about, Purple Group, how you started and all of that and what you have achieved since then. This is because we have probably people on the call who have never heard of Purple. Yes, so it would be good for us to just share about that and then we'll go into the questions.
All right. Thank you very much. It's always good to go down memory lanes a little bit, right? Purple started off in about 2013, 2014. We started off obviously as a real estate business. Today, obviously, we've transformed from that and going towards a RICO structure, a real estate investment holding company structure with multiple assets across different spectrum of real estate, spanning residential, hospitality, long and short stay apartments, retail, office, and the likes. And we're moving in that trajectory. We've been able to go from startup position to about 30 billion gross asset value over that period. Of course, that has been a phenomenal feat for us in terms of being able to achieve that. We've been able to take our shareholders' funds to about 10 billion. We're currently at a pre-money valuation of about 20 billion. Post-IPO, we're expecting that to take us to a post-money valuation of about 30 billion with a listing on the NGX. This will be the first
So
RICO.
is this billion in Naira, is it in dollars?
We're still in Naira.
Okay.
We're coming.
Okay. Just
We're
just
speaking
to
in Naira
understand,
right
let's
now.
put things
Yeah.
in context.
I
Okay.
understand, right? So that we don't confuse the audience. But
Yes.
So we are obviously going towards a listing on the NGX. It will be the first RICO to be listed on the NGX, licensed by SEC, approved by SEC going forward. It will operate across the spectrum of real estate and prop tech. And it will be able to provide that level of returns to shareholders. Over the last 2-3 years, we've paid dividend and bonuses to our shareholders, and that's quite interesting to note. Our plan, obviously, is to be able to grow that over the next quarter to 80 billion gross asset value, spanning this full spectrum of areas that I've mentioned, and also looking at other areas going into the midterm, including purpose-built student accommodation, as well as affordable housing. And a lot of people may know us for Purple Maryland on Ikorodu Road, formerly Maryland Mall, which is a mixed-use asset, which houses the likes of Uber, Cheaper Cash, Epson. Also houses the likes of strong domestic players on the grocery side, like Market Square. You also have the likes of Essenza, The Place. You have the cinema, Genesis Cinemas, operating in there. A lot of our guys have obviously stayed with us from inception to date since 2016 when we opened Purple Maryland. And of course, we have taken all those lessons and dovetailed those changes that we made in Maryland, and we've taken it to Lekki Phase 1 on Freedom Way. And over the next 60, 90 days, we should be opening up the Phase 1 location, which is Purplelekki, which is a mixed-use asset that also encompasses Leave as part of it, which has basically long and short stay residential apartments attached to it. We've pretty much fully leased out. We're now consolidating our position as a market leader, leading the change and the trajectory of real estate in the Nigerian market. That's the trajectory we are today, and that's where we're trying to head to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. My next question was actually going to be to ask you to tell us about some of your known, completed, and ongoing projects, but you've already mentioned Purple Maryland and the one in Lekki that's currently ongoing. So are there any other projects that we may know or you can tell us about that you guys have completed?
Oh, yeah. We've done a series of residential estates in the Lekki area over the years. We've partnered with a few people and gotten all that going. So we've done probably over 50 residential estates in the Phase 1 area. Presently, in the Lekki area, we are also delivering to the market a total of about 500 residential apartments right next to Purple Maryland. Some of you that pass through Ikorodu Road very regularly will see that we've acquired the land next to it. And we're delivering about 195 studios, 1 beds, 2 beds, purpose-built, specific for the market on that axis. That's a total rejuvenation of the mainland market. At the back of Purplelekki as well, we also have a 1.4 hectare parcel of land. We are currently building and delivering another 112 residential apartments of 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. To the top of Purplelekki, I mentioned earlier on, is 202 residential long and short stay apartments, which we're working with Citadines, part of the Ascot Group, similar to the Marriott residences or the Hilton residences, to deliver a bespoke type branded residential apartment at the top of that. So yeah, we've been quite busy doing quite a bit in the past and in the present.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So also, I want everyone to know what an IPO is. So I'm not going to think everybody here knows what an IPO is. So tell us, what is the meaning of an IPO and why have you decided to go this IPO route?
An IPO is an initial public offering. It's the stage in which a business takes the decision, maybe because it's currently private or public, but not yet listed on a recognized exchange. The Nigerian Stock Exchange has been renamed as the NGX, the Nigerian Exchange Limited, more recently because of the dematerialization. But essentially, that is the platform. It is a recognized exchange in which shares or the equity part of the capital structure of a public company is quoted or listed, and trades can take place to provide liquidity for investors to be able to sell their shares or even buy more shares on that platform. Is regulated by the NGX, is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, and is actively traded by stockbrokers. So essentially, anyone that participates in an initial public offer will eventually have his shares electronically listed on that platform for it to be traded if they so wish, or for them to hold it in their portfolio if they so wish.
Okay, fantastic. So basically, an IPO is basically when the private company sells its offer or its shares to the public for the first time, pretty much in a nutshell.
Easy.
Okay, so now that we understand the meaning of an IPO, can you tell me some of the successful IPOs that you know and some of the unsuccessful IPOs that you know?
There hasn't been an IPO in the market in a long time, save for MTN. late last year, MTN came out with an initial public offering after a long period of talking about it and thinking about it, and it was quite successful. It was oversubscribed. There was a good participation of the retail market as well as the institutional market. It's currently listed on the Nigerian Exchange Limited, the NGX. Prior to that, there has been a slow pace in terms of the initial public offerings in the market. More recently, there have been more listing by introduction. So you have the likes of Boa Foods, Geregu Power, which did a listing by introduction on the NGX. In time past, you've seen, and I'll give you an example, probably GTB 20 years ago, and you can see what they've achieved with being able to bring in capital into their formation over that 2 decades period, growing significantly. You've seen what Zenith Bank has been able to do as well over that same period. But at the point when a company does that is obviously looking for expansionary capital to ensure that it's able to then take up the opportunities that are available in the marketplace.
Okay, thank you very much. So, with all that is going on in the investment space, why should people trust you and trust Purple Group?
I mean, for us at Purple, we've been around for about a decade. We've been consistently dealing in the real estate space, and a lot of our products are readily available in terms of you can see, feel, and touch it. I mean, Purple Maryland is right there on the Ikorodu Road. Purplelekki is right there, coming up strongly on Freedom Way. Prior projects are also there for testaments. We've subjected ourselves now under the Securities and Exchange Commission's rules and regulations, which means we are now regulated. We're going public, which means that we have to disclose and put out more information about what we do to the general public on a quarterly and annual basis. We are audited by KPMG. Our accounts and the prospectus have been reported on by Deloitte. So we are very much now in the public eye and the public space. We are obviously going to be also regulated by the NGX, and we won't obviously shy away from those regulations because we are mandated to do those things. As a RICO as well, we're also mandated based on the rules of the Finance Act and the Securities and Exchange Commission that declarations be made and dividend and bonuses be shared and distributed into the hands of shareholders on a consistent basis annually.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that explanation. I have another question, and then before I go into all the questions that came from the public before we started this. So what is the current financial health of the company, and what are Purple's long-term goals and plans for the expansion?
Half-year numbers are publicly available. 30 billion gross asset value, net asset value of 10 billion, gross revenue of about 4.7 billion as at half-year 2022. 1.4 billion profitability level. Given we're going to be a RICO, obviously company income tax exemption then applies to a RICO structure that is regulated and licensed by SEC, which means there's more free cash flow down the bottom going into the future. So we are in tandem with our focus lines. Over the last 2 years, we've paid dividend and bonuses to our shareholders. And we're obviously now bringing that opportunity both to the retail market as well as the institutional markets to participate in.
Okay, thank you very much. So how do you intend to utilize the funds that are raised through this IPO?
The funds that are raised through this IPO is part of a larger raise of 41 billion, which has the debt side of it. So our initial target is obviously to free our balance sheet up and then take on the longer term debt which real estate requires, especially in a market like this. And that will help us to expand our asset base from 4 asset base to 7 asset base, taking us to 80 billion in gross asset value, spanning a spectrum of hospitality, residential, office, retail, entertainment, advertising, and bringing all that to bear to ensure our revenue drive in 2023 goes north of 10 billion.
Okay. So, are you licensed to do this? So I know that on this call you mentioned, SEC like multiple times, but can you tell us what this means? I know you've said things like now you are being regulated and all that, but what does this regulation actually mean? And what kind of returns should the investors expect, from this IPO?
We are obviously regulated by virtue of even being able to come out with an IPO. For you to come out with an IPO with an initial public offering, you have to have gone through the Securities and Exchange Commission, and you have to have been approved to approach the public to join in the share capital structure of the company. So not any company or not every company can actually come out to do that can come out to do that simple. You have to go through that process of regulations and approvals and checks and balances to ensure that you have all of the above, the corporate governance structure, you have the audited positions, you have the right level of disclosures and information, you have all of those things that you stated in prospectus as what you do, and those things have to be checked. I mean, everything that we do is on our website, purple.xyz /invest. Everything is on there on our investor relations aspect. So everyone, the retail market, the institutional markets are free to access all that information, and that's part of the whole public nature in which an IPO goes. I'm not sure if I got the second part of your question, though.
It was mainly about, you've kind of answered it, and the next question that I'm going to even ask also will speak to that. And I'm happy that in your response you had spoken about corporate governance. So my next question now is, can you tell us more about some other people who are within your organization? So who are your co-founders? Who are your board members? Who are your existing investors?
Existing investors that work with us span. So in 2016, we had our first institutional participation from Stanbic IBTC Bank. Then it was followed straight after that with AXA Mansard Insurance PLC joining on board to help activate our funding gaps. Since then, we've had the likes of Bank of Industry also joining us. South African partners, Vantage Capital, has also been part of the whole process. We've had an array of institutional and domestic players, strong institutional and strong domestic players also joining in, the likes of Cardinal Stone, Emerging Africa, Trust Bank, and the likes, supporting the growth trajectory of Purple over time and over the years. On our shareholding structure, you also have participation from strong HNI partners that have been in business for a while. On our board, you have participation from the likes of Professor Hilary Oyoke, who is also on the board of Citibank. You also have our board chairman, who is an independent. On our board, we have 11 board members, 5 independent non-executive directors, 3 non-executive directors, and 3 executive directors, including myself. In that executive director position, as my partner, which we started off with from as far back as 2013, Obina Onunkwo, who is a co-founder of the firm and works very closely with me as deputy CEO. You also have the executive director, Sheyi Showale, Ms. Sheyi Showale, who is our executive director of finance. Our board, like I mentioned, is led by Mrs. Jumoke Akinwumi, a renowned and well-known real estate practitioner who is very active and still very active in the space, managing a $100 million fund targeted at women under the name Alifia Capital. And, you have the likes of Mr. Mukta Bakari, you have the likes of an experienced people like Mrs. Fiona Ime, Mrs. Osarime Achibong, who are experienced, one is the MD of FBN Quest, First Bank Quest stockbrokers. The other also is an experienced investment banker and the like. So we have a vast array, and the board committees are chaired by these independent non-executive directors. And we have a good array of women as well, as you can see, in terms of participation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for answering that. It's very important for people to know that, it's not a one-man show, and there are other people who are renowned and credible that are already like within your ecosystem and all that. I think it will give people the, comforts that they need if they decide, to invest through the IPO. Okay, so now I'm going into the questions that came in from, online social media. So when
I've been
people saw
seeing a
that we
lot
were
of them
having this
typing
session.
away through.
Yeah.
Through
Yes,
this.
well, I have the one I'm going to read the ones that are on here because I can see someone asking the difference between NGX and NSC. It's the same thing. So the Nigerian Stock Exchange actually changed their name or rebranded to the NGX, and I think you also explained a little bit about that. But it's the same. It's one and the same.
Correct.
So she's saying this IPO, is it a government approved IPO? Can we pay for it through our stockbroking firms? So can you answer that?
Yes. A government-approved IPO, correct. IPOs can only be approved by government.
Through
The
SEC.
government in this case is SEC, the
SEC.
Securities and Exchange Commission, of which we are approved to do such an IPO, correct. So you can buy them through your stockbrokers, your asset managers. You can walk into any branch of Stanbic IBTC Bank, PLC. You can walk into any branch of First Bank across the nation to participate. You can, like I mentioned, you can go to the stockbrokers to the issue Cardinal Stone Securities, FBN Quest Securities, as well as Stanbic IBTC stockbrokers. So you can go through any of those avenues. You can also hit us on www.purple.xyz//invest to participate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So, first question now from the audience. I understand that they have just one operational asset. How successful can this IPO be? So the question is, do you have only one operational asset? And what does this mean if you have only one operational asset?
We have two yielding assets, Purple Maryland and Purplelekki. Purplelekki, because it's information, the idea behind it was the lessons learned from Purple Maryland, which was essentially to ensure that, we take those lessons and plant them in Purplelekki. We created that asset to ensure that it is yielding in development stage, as well as continuously yielding. So it serves both as an investment property and a trading property. The trading property aspect of it is what is being recorded on the books, and that's why you can see a major shift in the audited accounts from 2021 into half year 2022, and fully reflective of that upswing in performance showing up in 2022. So it's all about strategy. Our plan is to, obviously, we have two other assets in development stage as well. The plan is obviously to take this to 7 assets. In taking it to 7 assets takes us to the gross asset value of 80 billion. We will then have 2 sides to the books. The trading portfolio side of the books, which are the assets in development, that are trading assets. You will then have the yielding, stabilized, and acquisition assets, which will form 5 other assets in the books, right? Including Purple Maryland, Purplelekki, the acquisition assets, office acquisition that is taking place at the moment, an hospitality asset taking place at the moment, and a retail asset taking place at the moment. We've had a very good, strong showing from the institutional investor base, and we're expecting that the retail market will also participate and benefit from this mid to long-term assets called real estate. So there'll be 2 folds of returns. There'll be return on equity at about an average of 18% from a 17% return on equity position over a 10-year period. That's the average we're forecasting, and it will be distributed. 90% of that will be distributed as dividend, bonus, or scrip dividend into the hands of shareholders. You would also have a return on assets, which is a reflection on the share capital gains or revaluation gains from assets that are in development and in play, right? Or assets that have been acquired, which can then be distributed under the bonus structure. So you'll have 2 folds. We estimate an average of 12% per annum on that, taking it total into an average 30%. It will start low, but it continues to rise above the debt level because the application level is the finance expense that you put in there of 25% of the gross asset value that helps you to achieve those returns and blend the yield across the development assets as well as the stabilized yielding assets in a ratio of 75% to 25%.
Thank you very much for that. So second question now. Real estate typically is a hard sell these days. When you add, especially when you add the fact that equities markets are on a decline, why would anyone partake in the IPO?
I think, quite an interesting question, I would say. But then, markets are cyclical. And the most important thing about a cyclical market is that the savvy investors typically strike when the market is down and take the opportunities that arise due to a down market. Typically in the up market, then you're buying at higher prices, right? And that's the phenomenon across the world. What we're doing is to make this opportunity available in a down market, and we can all ride the wave into the positive trajectory going into the future. So you cannot essentially dictate a good market and a bad market, except you look at the opportunities that the market is looking at or the company is looking at to take those opportunities to ensure that it now rides the curve. The market in Nigeria has obviously gone through significant periods of downtime. We are at the floor, and of course, the only direction for us or for the economy is up. And if you look at the contribution, irrespective of the down market, the Q3 numbers that came out of the NBS shows a participation for real estate and construction as a contribution to GDP at 14%. That shows you significantly, that's 20 trillion Naira worth of injection within that space, even in a down market of this nature. That shows you that irrespective of the market situation that we have, so far as we still have the size and scale of infrastructure deficit, the size and scale of the population, the demand for real estate, whether affordable or luxury or mid-market, so long as those key fundamentals in an economy exist, then real estate will continuously play a key role. COVID taught us quite well that irrespective of the economic cycle, and I mean that was really bad. It was worse than this because we're all locked up in our various homes and we couldn't really do anything, right? So you can't get actually worse than that. But we all realize that real estate, our residential real estate play was a key factor in ensuring that we had the shelter to ensure that we can hide into. If you take Lagos, for example, less than 3% of the population in Lagos are landlords, and they're all occupying a particular location. That means there's a significant proportion of people that are currently tenants within their space. What are we trying to do? We're trying to democratize real estate, property ownership, and we're trying to make this available to the retail market for them to participate via this IPO. Furthermore, we're going to take advantage of the PropTech market space going into the future. And we're going to go into the areas of tokenization backed by real assets in partnership with Ticket Tech to create a 100 billion Naira platform that will also be regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, that will form as a basis for tradability of real assets in tokenized fashions from as low as 10,000 Naira. So what exactly am I trying to say? I'm just trying to tell the market, this is an opportunity for you to get into a play that you probably would never be able to get into on your own. And that's the essence of the RICO. That's the essence of this platform. And that's the way real estate is played all over the world in terms of participation at the retail level. So this is an opportunity I think the market should not miss.
Thank you. Thank you very much for explaining that succinctly. Okay, another question. This person really went in. Friend said, what of the market is that PFAs, which is like pension funds, are still undecided if they want to partake. Without them, how can the IPO still be successful?
I mean, I spoke with a PFA today, and thank you very much for that question. I spoke with a PFA today, or a few days ago, actually, and they said, well, a very popular infrastructure fund that is doing a second round in the market right now. We didn't invest in it because it was the first round, right? Notwithstanding, a few other PFAs also invested in the first round, right? So we do not expect the entire pension fund industry to participate in this offer. We do not expect the entire asset management industry to participate in this offer. We expect those that are aligned with our risk appetite and aligned with our trajectory and opportunity that we have put forward to them to align. And yes, we do have those ones that are actually confirmed interest, that have actually stated their willingness to participate, and that will participate in the offer. The offer size is 11.5, 10 billion naira with an oversubscription portion of 1.5 to take it to 11.5 billion naira, right? There are regulations in play to ensure that even if there are issues, SEC obviously steps in to do the needful to ensure that investor protections are those things that must be done. But we don't have those issues like from the member of the listening public that has stated that. But as you well know, PFAs, pension fund industry, are institutional investors, and I don't expect that they'll be making their decisions on the streets of Lagos. I guess they'll be making it to their various investment committees and boardrooms, talking to us to ensure that that crosses the line.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So, another question. Is this really a good time to IPO? Again, referring to the recent performance of the market.
I mean, how will I answer this question? I think I mentioned the fact that, the downtime, we've had a series of downtime. There's never a good time. There are always good opportunities, irrespective of market conditions. Yeah. Now, I think the bonus is on us to be able to spot good opportunities and be able to strike at the right time. Those opportunities will not wait for us because it's a bad time, right? Or because it's a good time. We're not going to. We have assets that are freely available for acquisition at this so-called bad time, and we want to, at Purple, take those opportunities and move with them into the marketplace. So we're not going to, because it being a downtime implies that we will not take the opportunities that arise in the market. We would actually go after them, and we'll go after them even more aggressive than we would do in a good time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, a question online. The person is saying, what is your strategy in terms of growth, and what is the strategy in terms of the going concern for the company? I think you mentioned it before, but I don't think the person was online when you had spoken about it, so you can just talk about it.
So what I said this IPO is a 10 to 11.5 billion IPO, right? But it's part of a larger raise of 41.5 billion. We have our credit guarantee providers and our bankers already lined up to give more longer-term funding of 7 to 10 years on the debt line, keeping our debt structure as not more than 25% of the gross asset value. And we are targeting a gross asset value of 80 billion. And that essentially implies about 25 billion, 20 to 25 billion in the debt level on a sustainable basis, which are expandable in nature. Through cross-collateralization of the assets, the 7 assets that will be holding. And of course, that implies that the first step to that trajectory is to ensure that the cushion to the baseline is strong enough, which is why we're also taking the opportunity to be in the marketplace at this time, to take on the equity position, expand our equity base, include more retail players, and include more institutional players in what we're doing.
Thank you very much. So I think I've answered all the questions on my end. So I'm still going to wait for more questions from the audience. I think I have one more actually here. What's the duration of the offer?
The offer closes December 23rd, 2022, this year. It comes from as low as 20,000 naira. I mean, 5,000 shares. 4,000 shares at 5 naira, that's 20,000 naira. In multiples of 1,000 shares, that's another 5,000 naira for the retail market. And you can go as high as whatever you want to in terms of participation. Of course, the institutional players are dealing at a much higher levels. We have the asset managers and pension fund administrators working with us closely. And our bankers are obviously working with us very closely, and our credit guarantee providers are working with us closely. And we expect a successful raise, and we're on track to deliver on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So on average, can you give us an inclination of how far you've gone? I know that, with SEC and everything, you're not necessarily
I'm
inclined
not
to
sure.
say how much you've raised.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to be fined by SEC, right? And I'm sure there's probably a SEC
Person listening.
person somewhere in the audience or listening in. I'm
But
not
you're
sure.
on track.
But
You're on track
we're on
to
track, and
close by
the thing about this whole thing is because it's public in nature. SEC requires that even after the closure of the offer and after the approval and collation and the allotment is done, that there must be a disclosure made to the public in terms of participation levels, subscription levels, and ensure that allotments are done in tandem with the rules and regulations, and listings are done immediately thereafter.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to check for any more questions so that we can ask. And if you want to just say some few words on this IPO, what the experience has been like, you're free to talk about it now. And what made you decide that, this time I'm going to just go for it, or just IPO, open up my company, to the public?
I think you just cannot build anything that you want it to be an institution on your own. We've started this process of institutionalizing Purple for the last 24 to 36 months. Current shareholders base is about 79 shareholders. So we're actually a PLC at this point in time. And what we're trying to do is obviously now enlarge that cost of shareholders to include the retail market and institutional market, to ensure that we consistently are able to raise capital, because a platform of this nature, unlike the REITs market, is not a closed asset, platform. Is an open platform, essentially implying that it will consistently come back to the market to raise both equity and debt capital, to ensure that it continuously take opportunity, not just in the Nigerian marketplace, but continues to take opportunity within the West African marketplace. This is a true Nigerian story. It's very rare that you find a Nigerian company come to the marketplace on an IPO, especially in a market that has been that has seen no IPO in a very long time, to come to the marketplace and put this opportunity in front of people. And these are the sort of opportunities that create value, long-lasting value for members of the public. And that's what the opportunity that we're putting to the marketplace is all about. And we want people to obviously understand that. We want them to participate. We want them to also get used to this opportunity, as we will be coming back every so often to take opportunities within the Nigerian marketplace. And if set up properly, sets us on the trajectory to actually take up opportunity within the West African and African market. And the regulations allows and provides for us to be able to do that, as we are currently as a RICO registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So this is a full, true Nigerian story. It has been replicated in South Africa. It's been replicated in the United Kingdom. It's been replicated all over the world in the United States. And there's no reason, absolutely no reason, why this should not be happening in the largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you very much for explaining that. I just wanted to also point out that it's also very, very important for people to do their research. We decided to host this Instagram Live because a couple of people had asked me about this particular offering, saying, oh, they were interested, but they didn't know how to go about it, or, oh, could we give them some more information? Was it possible for us to get the founder, to just come and explain and, state some of their, or explain or break down some of the fears that they may have? Because obviously in recent times we've seen a lot of people run away with people's money. We've seen a lot of people do shady things. We've seen the likes of MMM. People are very scared of putting their money in certain things. So we decided to host this Instagram Live. But please, please, please do your research. If possible, speak to your stockbrokers, speak to other people who are in the investment space, so that you make a decision that is true to you, and depending on your risk appetite and all of that. But this is the founder that is fully Nigerian, that we believe in, and has been doing a lot of work in the real estate sector in Nigeria. We've seen some of the work that he's done publicly, aside, some of the residential projects that they've done. And I believe that they've done a good job so far. So it's good that, we continue to support, businesses like this, which was why we decided to host this session and literally break this down to people who may be interested in, getting some more information for the IPO. Somebody else here is asking, how can those in the diaspora participate? So please, can you break it down? I know you've mentioned the the website before /invest, but if you can mention it again, maybe the person wasn't on the call, so that the person can just go type it in. I'm sure it's open to everybody, across
It's
the
open
world,
to
but please
everybody.
just share.
It's www.purple.xyz/invest. And, if you're in diaspora, insofar as you have a means of identification, Nigerian means of identification, then you can do it on that platform. If you are in diaspora and you don't have a means of identification that is Nigerian, then you can shoot us an email. I think it's... I'm just trying to get an email. Invest@purple.xyz. Invest@purple.xyz. And we've gone through that process of going it through with a few diaspora indigenes that have not been able to lay a hand on their means of identification. I can see a question about how dividends paid. Dividends are paid directly into your bank account. You state all of those details in your KYC documentation on the application form. The registrars handle all of that process, and all of those will be dealt with electronically.
Fantastic. Okay, one more question. I think the questions are coming in more and more now. I'm trying to load the question. I think the internet is a bit slow. Okay, I think I'm not sure why it's not popping up yet. But if you have any last words, now would be a good time to just tell us more. Something that we may have not covered.
Yeah, I think one thing that we need to note is that, as our plans progress and we scale up the platform, our plan is already to introduce more prop tech into the play of what we're doing. And of course, to grow this prop tech story and this brick and mortar story into a brick, mortar, and cloud story, and ensure that we consolidate our position as a market leader within the real estate space in Nigeria, and provide our own quota to blocking the infrastructure deficit that is available, that is currently holding back the economic growth and the economic trajectory of the country. And we can only do that not as ourselves alone, but in conjunction with many others that can join in a capital structure on both the equity side and the debt side.
Lovely. So one more question. How long do we hold shares before we start selling?
Once it's listed, you can sell your shares. Once we get to listing and get approval from SEC in the first quarter, I'm sure we would have listed on the exchange. If you want to sell at that point, you can sell. But typically, real estate is a mid to long-term asset class. You want to obviously enjoy the benefit of what you've bought. And of course, it's not sudden. It takes some time to create value. But you need to also understand that it's freely available. That's why it's listed on the exchange, for you to be able to trade at any one point in time that you want to.
Fantastic. We have another question. You can tell it's from an investment space. Okay, so what's the difference between a real estate company and a RICO? Are there any tax incentives?
RICO is essentially a real estate investment holding company structure. A real estate company could be any company, right? A RICO, a real estate investment holding company's platform of this nature, would obviously be a public company, would obviously be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, would be listed on the main board of a regulated trading exchange like the NGX. So those are some of the key features that makes it that. Based on the Finance Act of 2020, RICOs obviously will enjoy the same tax benefits as REITs, which means it will be tax exempted on the corporate income tax line, and also exemptions from sales tax as well as VATs on the sales items, on the sales and leasing revenues.
Thank you. Ojuti, I hope that answers your question well. So Busi Tonto is saying, when is the dividend expected and at what rates?
So in the past, we've paid dividend on half year and full year. Plan is obviously to try to continue in this trajectory. Our past dividend payments have been around 20 kobo, 22 kobo per share. We obviously plan to improve on that. We've also been doing bonus issues over that same period. So it's been a combination of bonus issue and dividend payments. Our plan is obviously to then take it into the next few years, hopefully on a semi-annual basis and annual basis, and as well as continue the bonus issue structures that we've already put in place, which gives a double effect on the value of what you're holding, both from a cash payment perspective and on a growth perspective. Our plan is for return on equity to be about 18% on average, which implies that we'll pay a combination of cash, dividend, scrip dividend, as well as bonus issue from that aspect, inclusive of the return on assets. So that's the plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone else is asking, can you also add more shares to the ones you are buying now in case one decides to increase the number of shares?
You can do that between now and December 23rd on a primary offer basis. You can buy today, buy tomorrow. You can keep buying every day till December 23rd. However, it stops at that point, and then you can buy on the floor of the exchange through your stockbroker. All those shares will be held in the CSCS account through your stockbrokers. So there'll be electronic shares, which you can then give instructions to your stockbroker to trade on, or to sell or to buy more at that point in time when it's listed on the exchange, which we expect that to be in the first quarter of next year once we get approval from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we also get a sign of NGX upon completion of this initial public offering.
Okay. Someone is saying, if you buy a lot of shares, are you able to use it as a timeshare for holiday?
No. So no, the answer is no, because the shares are shares held of the company. You are not buying into a specific asset. Buying into a specific asset is different from buying into shares of a company. The company holds all of the assets that is in development, is land bank, and the rest of it. But so it doesn't work in that format. You can only buy or you can only sell your shares. You cannot use it. You cannot use it for the purpose of a timeshare for, say, one of our apartments, say, for example.
Okay, thank you. Okay, someone else is asking, this is Shaya Balogun, what's the duration of the share of the IPO? So he's already said it ends on the 23rd of December 2022. Maybe you're not on this call, but it's ending in a few weeks, the opportunity. Okay, I think that's the final question that I have. And yeah, so thank you so much for answering all of our questions. I think we got for people to be sending questions. That shows that, they're interested. Okay, I think I see one more question. What is a niche that stands you out to disrupt the real estate market in Nigeria in a positive way?
Thank you very much. I think one thing I've said is the fact that what we're bringing to the market is unusual in the first place, this initial public offering in the form of a real estate investment holding company platform and making it available for the retail market. We are obviously consolidating our leadership position and making the assets that you see, feel, and touch and you use regularly available for you to also invest in under the company structure that we've put together. We're democratizing the property ownership space in Nigeria, a space that is usually reserved for the high net worth individual and institutional investor space. We are also further buttressing that up by ensuring that we then introduce prop tech solutions, fractions, which will obviously be launching in 2023, which will further democratize property ownership. Like I mentioned, we're working with Ticket Tech Africa, which are currently own about 15% of Ticket Tech Africa, which has been licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission as the first digital exchange platform, similar to the NGX, but for digital assets, which will be backed by real assets to ensure that people further down the pyramid can participate in both the private and public markets to trade and buy real estate assets from as low as 10,000 naira. So what we are doing is obviously market defining and market changing from the equity perspective to all the way down to the tokenization perspective. So we are very much different from your usual brick and mortar developer down the road. We are more real estate developers with a full-fledged flair for investment management. We are licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission as an asset manager as well, and that brings to bear the fact that everything we do is regulated in a sense. A lot of the other players in the marketplace are not regulated. We are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we're very much different from what you have in the marketplace.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've seen another question. Okay, two more questions. I think that the last two. Yeah, I think these are the last two that we're going to take. And I'm sure if you guys have more questions, please send an email to them. At the end of the call, I will ask him for the email so that he can say it again, so that everyone who's listening now, because he said it already during the call. So someone is asking, what is the share price for a unit? This is actually very important. What is the share price for units of share? And also, what is the underlying assets? Is it residential or commercial real estate?
Okay, share price is 5 naira per share. We're offering 2 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each at 5 naira per share. The underlying assets, obviously, as a function of 4 assets: Purple Maryland, which is on Ikorodu Road, which is a mixed-use asset, which is 97% leased and trading. You have Purplelekki on Freedom Way, which is a mixed-use development encompassing workshop, eat, play, drink, and live, of which I had explained earlier on, is already signed up to the tune of 98% by retailers, both domestic and international brands. We've also got the residential component, which is fully sold out, with a portion of it retained for ourselves as investment properties, and that's also held in the books. You also have the Purple Urban. The Purple Urban is a development of 112 residential developments of 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments right to the back of Purplelekki, sitting on 1.4 hectares of land, which is ongoing. We also have the Purple Macro right next to Purple Maryland, which is right next to Purple Maryland on the Ikorodu Road, which has been approved by the governor, which will be the tallest residential building on 15 floors on the mainland. It will house about 195 residential apartments of 1 studio, 1, 2 bedroom apartments. All of our assets are backed up by research and stuff. We are obviously then increasing that from 4 to 7 assets, which would then include the Mansard Place in Victoria Island, right behind Mobile House, which currently houses AXA. And you also have an hospitality development in Benin also coming on board, and then you also have another retail asset in Lagos also coming on board. Of course, there's a few disclosure items I cannot voice out on air, but we can obviously have private discussions if you want to know more.
Thank Thank you very much. So, the final question of the day. You mentioned getting a stockbroker if one wants to buy more shares in the future. Can you recommend one stockbroker?
Stanbic. Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers, Cardinal Stone Stock Securities, FBN Quest Securities. Top 3 leading stockbrokers in the country. They are on the issue as stockbrokers to the transaction. You can reach out to any one of them. They're listed on the prospectus with their contact details as well. So you can reach out to any one of them. You can also reach out to all the other stockbrokers in the marketplace.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. So the email address that you can send any email or any questions to is investors@purple.xyz. So please
Correct.
send all your questions to them and they'll definitely respond. If you have any issues, trying to buy the shares or any further questions, or your stockbroker is not answering you, or you're scared that they're going to sell out, just send them an email and they're very responsive, and I'm sure they will get back to you in less than 24 hours. So thank you
I guess
very, very much.
You can also DM us on Purple Group NG at Purple Group NG.
On
And I'm sure somebody will be right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Instagram, Purple Group NG. I guess
That might be
someone
quicker,
will be
actually,
on.
yes.
Yeah, that might be quicker.
Okay. Thank you so much,
All
Mr.
right.
Agboola, for taking this call. I love seeing founders being interested in things like this, because a lot of people who have been in business for years, they probably may not come themselves, or somebody else on their team may come, but this shows your commitment. So we're very, very excited and happy that you came to spend time with us and people who are watching. And shoot them questions. I hope, I wish, you well. I hope this all goes well. I can't wait to tell the success story in a year's time to say, oh, all of this went well and all of that. So thank you very much for taking our time to come and explain to my followers on here about the IPO. And educating us as well, because some people might have been here also just for education. So I'm sure they've also been very, very educated. So yeah, thank you very, very much for having us.
Very much.
And
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very glad we did this. Thank you.
Thank you. So one word of advice to anybody watching. Do you have any word of advice or last words, anything?
I guess we should all just try to take opportunities when they come. It doesn't come every day.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. All right, guys. Have a nice day.
Take care.
Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.